Hey colleagues, how are you doing? This is John Herrera, president of MuniTemps Municipal Staffing Solutions, here with the City Speak, the podcast for today. And the title of it is, do you know what your craft is? Do you think of your job as a craft? I'm here at a city park right next to the city library and enjoying a beautiful sunset out here in the valley. And I was thinking, if you look around here, the person who built this beautiful park, his or her craft is building parks, right? The person who built that tot lot, or the play area there for the children, their craft is building children's play areas, right? The same thing with the sod, the grass, whatever it is. But today I'm talking about our craft as public administrators. I work in the public sector, meaning local government, city government, and as I'm a certified public accountant, a CPA. I work as a CFO, a city finance director, and I have a craft, and my craft is public administrator. One of my mentors 30 years ago, Lyle Alberg, may he rest in peace, a retired city manager who taught me about thinking of my job as my craft. And you know, I have a blue door hanger here. My notes are on a blue door hanger. But anyhow, the city manager, Lyle Alberg, taught me to think of my job as my craft. This is what I do. I'm a craftsman, a craftsperson, whatever the term is. But my job as a city finance director is my craft as a public administrator that focuses in the financial area. But in local government, whether you're a city manager or whether you're a city custodian, you have a craft and you think of it that way. What is my craft? What do I build? What do I make? Right? And that's something that I wanted to just highlight today, because it came to me as I was building a budget. I work with city governments in building budgets. A budget is a simple financial plan where you list all of your revenues that you project out for the next 12 months. That's easy to do because you have years and years of history that you can compare. The same thing with the expenditure side, right? You just estimate what you're going to be spending in everything from public safety, public works, community development, library services, or general government services that ensure the efficient delivery of public services to the community, vital public services. But yeah, building a budget is easy. But what is it that makes building a budget your craft? Well, it's the impact that it has. And when you think of it with that conviction, that pride of ownership of whatever it is that you're building, most people think about the craftsman or craftsperson with regard to something tangible. Like I build a house. I'm a master craftsman in building houses or building parks and tot lots and so forth. But the same is true for services related to public administration, city manager, city clerk, human resources, finance, community development, public works, police and fire, and all of the services. We have a specific craft, and that is, what is it that we do? What is it? And it's always good. This is good craft, right? Not bad craft, good craft. A craft professional service that we provide that goes beyond just professional standards. So I wanted to share with you that I think we can always think of our work that we do as public administrators, think of it as your craft. And when you think of it as your craft, then it has your fingerprints on it, and it has your mark. It has something that you can look at for many, many years in the future. I still go back and look at bond issues that I put together. You know, when you issue a bond $30 million, $50 million, $100 million bond. And on the inside page of the bond covenant, or the bond offering statement, it says there who the city manager was, who the finance director was, and so on. And 10, 20, 30 years later, I can always go back and look at that bond issue. I was a part of crafting that financing solution for that project, and I'm very proud of that. The person who built this park can also think in terms of this improvement, capital improvement that is part of the infrastructure, if you will, of this community. And this will stand here for 50, 100 years or longer. So you take pride of ownership as your craft. No matter what you do, take pride of ownership in what your craft is. So if you think of your job as a craft, I believe that you'll be proud of it. Now, right now, I just have a couple more minutes to finish up the City Speak portion of this City Speak podcast. And so I just want to summarize a couple of points. Think about what you do. What is the purpose of what you do? What impact does it have on the community? And then think of how you can think of that service as your craft that has your fingerprints on it. No matter what you're doing in your local government, everything you do, like I said, everything from the city manager to the city custodian and every position in between has a very important part in the craft of bringing forward vital city services, vital public services. And when we think of it that way, I think we're always going to be doing a better job, and you can be proud of what you do. So if somebody asks, what do you do, right? Remember Mitch from the City Slickers back in the 1990s? It was a movie, and he was feeling really bad, like, what do I do? My father built furniture. He built a chair. He had something to show for his craft. What do I do? You know, he says, I basically sell air. He couldn't see the purpose. He couldn't see the value of what he was doing. So he lost his vision. He lost his true north on his job, and he had to go and find his smile. Then he came back refreshed, right? But we as city administrators, we see directly what we do and how this benefits our communities. And it's totally cool. I wouldn't choose any other career. So when you think about it, just a couple of points to keep in mind, and I'll come back with a lot more detail for those of you that stay with me for the extended version of this video on your craft, your job. Think about how you handle delicate issues. There are issues that you need to know how to handle. There's no right and wrong. There's only your training, your experience, your ethics, your understanding of best practices, best management practices, how we handle delicate issues, that there aren't always rules written. You need to know your craft. How do you handle community development issues, business license issues, very delicate matters that you might say, oh my gosh, this is unethical or this is illegal, when in fact it's not unethical and it's not illegal. It's just a matter that it's a sensitive issue. So think about that, develop that in your craft, and I'll come back later and discuss it in more detail. Best practices, get together with other municipal organizations, see how they do it, and you'll get ideas to see that maybe it's not wrong. What you think is wrong, maybe it's not really wrong. Pick your battles in your organization. As you're working your craft, pick your battles. You can't be a stickler on everything. There's a reason why certain things are done, but pick your battles. We'll talk more about that in the extended version. Don't sweat the small stuff. Remember that author that wrote that book? Don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff anyways. So keep that in mind. So think of your job then as your craft. Think of everything you do, whether you are cleaning toilets and emptying out trash cans, or you're actually cleaning out City Hall, things that need to be fixed. It's your craft. Think of your job as your craft. Be professional, follow best practices, follow your ethics, and you know that you're doing the best job that you can within your craft. All for now for this 10-minute version of the City Speak podcast. Thanks for hanging in there with me. Don't go away if you're on my City Speak podcast. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so thanks for staying with me a little longer. Now I have a little more flexibility, and I have to rush through this concept about thinking of your job as your craft. Craft, what is that? Is it something that you build with your hands? Sure, of course it is. But when it comes to services, what you're building with your hands in local government is something that doesn't always have some physical attributes, right? It may be just the fact that a police officer drove down your street, and that alone, that action of that police officer driving down the street just created a major service that it provided to the community. It's protecting and it's serving, okay, and that's vital. Public safety is a #1 priority in any community. So again, that police officer drove by, whether it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the morning. And we're very proud of our law enforcement, because even though you don't always see it, it's happening. That service is being delivered. What about in your craft as a utility billing clerk or a accounting technician, and you're providing services to the customers that come to the window to pay their water bill? Are you providing a service? It's a craft. People talk about how they deal with customers that are irate at times, and sometimes just a simple smile can change the attitude of that customer. So you just provided a service as part of your craft as a highest standard of customer service, so that the citizen that might have been very upset and showed up at a city council meeting or at a board meeting and complained in public and saying what a horrible service you provide. That's not likely to happen, again, because of you thinking of your job as a craft, and you're really good. I have a lady, her name is Maria. She handles business licensing. She handles other services. Oscar, I think of Sandy, another city that I work at, Yaneth, and other people that I work with. I can't tell you how awesome, and I don't want to keep telling them how awesome, how impressed I am with the services that they're providing, because I'm concerned that they might think that I'm just exaggerating. They just do it without even thinking. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of people whose craft is at the highest top-notch quality of craft, of service, of public service that they deliver, and they don't even ask for recognition or anything. So I would just urge you then to consider the fact that everything you do, somebody's always watching. Somebody's always watching, and the most important person that should be watching on whether your craft, your job, your services that you deliver to your community are top-notch. The person who's always watching is you. I'm watching what I'm doing. I want to be proud. I walk into any meeting that I have with city managers, directors, management staff, whoever it is. When I did my homework, when I prepared well, I can stare people in the eye and confidently address matters because I did my homework. And so I want my craft to be of the highest that I can deliver. Therefore, I feel more confident, and it comes across. The same thing is true, again, whether you're in lighting and landscape maintenance district services that you're providing. The way the community perceives what you're doing has a lot to do with the craft that you have. And the city council, the governing body, the elected officials, the community, they're all watching. And it's always interesting how in that moment where you think nobody's watching, there's always somebody that took note, even if you don't realize it. So I want to go back to talking about delicate issues. As part of your craft, how you handle delicate issues. Let's think of some examples, because there's many in city government and local government administration and so forth. There's many sensitive subjects. I worked for the city of Imperial Beach during what we call the Renaissance period, from 1999 to 2006. And I was working with Barry Johnson, the city manager, and we had a really nice city council that we worked with at that time. We have Diane Rose, our mayor. We had Patricia McCoy, Mr. Rogers, forget his first name. Anyways, really good council members that were there. And we had to bring forward the creation of a redevelopment agency. This is back in the late 1990s. We brought forward a redevelopment agency. We sold bonds, first time ever that the city ever had debt on the books, but you had to have that for redevelopment. We brought in, $50, $100 million or more of revenue into that community. But there was a humongous outpouring of protests by certain people that heard about that word, eminent domain, whenever a city does redevelopment, because through redevelopment you had to go and identify neighborhoods that you can form a redevelopment project area, and you form it based on the, there goes public safety, fire department. But anyhow, that's also, that's their craft. Just passing by right there, we're all aware that we can call 911. That's their craft, is responding. We have the folks that are in dispatch and how they handle that. I have a son in law enforcement, another one in public works. So anyhow, I'm very proud of local government services. It's been my career. But going back to that point about the craft then, is that here, the city of Imperial Beach, from 1999, we had to implement this redevelopment agency, form project areas. We had to identify areas as being blighted, right? This is not a blighted area, this is beautiful. But where redevelopment existed, we had to identify areas as blighted. And then that allowed us to receive a larger percentage of the property tax that would normally go to the state or the county or other agencies would come directly locally, so we can use that to eliminate blight, right? But we had to deal with a big issue. It was a huge sensitive issue where so many people would come and they'd cry and they'd beg the council that was sitting as a redevelopment agency board of directors. They would beg them, don't do this. You're going to take away our property. We've lived here for 80 years, and they were misinformed. So our craft was trying to educate a community that was misinformed. They were dealing with people who were trying to disrupt this public policy called redevelopment, economic development, community development, and therefore we had to exercise our craft. Everything from how we communicated through the Public Information Office, through the City Council, City Manager's Office, Finance, Community Development, all of us had to work together to establish a good common presentation so that we can persuade the community. And that was our craft, was persuading them, not for something bad. If you go look at Imperial Beach, the city of Imperial Beach, California, the most southwesterly city in the continental United States, look at it today in the year 2023 and compare it back to the days when it was, let me turn this way a little bit. Oh, maybe I should turn this way a little bit. So too much light there. But compare it back to the days back in the early 90s or 80s or 70s. It was a really tough town. And there was a lot of need for cleaning up the neighborhoods, code enforcement and so forth. Because of redevelopment, that community now looks better. But we had to practice our craft, not as one individual, but as a team. We came together. And it's really a building block as you look at communities. This community was established over 100 years ago. So the work that I do in this community is not, I'm just building on what was done here over 100 years ago. Another public safety, fire department, again, working their craft. Public services, essential. Water, when you turn on your water, right? You get potable water. Does anybody even think of potable water? They just think it's water, right? You don't have to deal with it like you do in Mexico or in India or some other countries where you turn on the water, you don't drink it. It's not potable, it's not drinkable. But here in the United States, or at least here in California, where I'm standing right now, you turn that water on, it's potable, it's drinkable. It meets the highest standards of water quality for drinkable consumption of water. We have, when you call 911, it works. When you flush your toilet, the water goes down. By the way, the city of Imperial Beach, they're dealing with a constant sewage that comes from Mexico, especially when it rains and it flows into the community. It doesn't just hurt Imperial Beach, it hurts Coronado, all the way up through Mission Bay and all the way up to northern beaches. So the craft that they have to do there is come together in a bilateral international cooperation with another country. But again, craft, working together. How do we handle delicate issues, right? So let me just come out just a little bit more here so we have a little more light and we can finish our conversation here. I just got about another 8 or 9 minutes that I'd like to be able to discuss with you. The concept of looking at your job as a craft, okay? So the other point that I've been highlighting earlier is to look for best practices. How do you know that you're doing your craft the right way, right? Well, you look at best practices. I mean, there's not always a right and a wrong way. There's a right way and a better way, or a worse way of how we do things. Your craft, you know, how much do you sand that piece of wood? You know, if you were making chairs, what grain of sandpaper do you use, right? So it's something that we need to consider, is that our craft then is a refinement, and we keep on smoothing out the edges and smoothing out ourselves, so that when we're working as a representative, I mean, I work with the community, and not just the city manager, but the city council has trust in you. And when I go to work for a city, not trying to brag, but there's a lot of us in this situation. I have 33 years working in city government. A lot of us that have worked in city government for 30 years or longer. When we go to a city council meeting, or when we join a city council and we go work with the city council, they know who they can trust. They know from the first time you meet with them. You also have a reputation. Are you somebody that has political integrity? When you know that your craft is as a public administrator, and that doesn't matter whether you're handling money or community development, building, planning, public works, whatever, public safety, whatever it is. If you've got integrity, what we call political integrity, they're going to trust you. They're going to want you to represent them. So especially for those of you that are younger, that are just starting a career or looking to join in a career in local government, it's the most satisfying job that I've ever had. There's local government, state government, and federal government. I just work in local government. That's what I like. But working in local government, you have the most job satisfaction. There's one city that I'm working with I tell the city manager, I've never had a more satisfying job, because he doesn't micromanage. He delegates to the extent that we have the ability to do the job, to practice our craft. Remember, practice your craft. If you're good at it, you're going to have a lot more delegated to you. Of course, you have to remember as a public administrator, to him or her, that much is given in the way of responsibility and authority. Much will be demanded or requested in return. So I tell all of you, continue to work and improve your craft. Your craft is a professional, and you're providing the best services to the community. And a lot of times it's more of an art than it is a science. So keep that in mind. Sometimes when we're in a meeting and it's all directors, and you have people in the directors meeting who are not directors, maybe they're more at the management, mid-management level, or even just a supervisor level, and hasn't really had the opportunity to understand how city work, how the craft of city work is done. I like the way a city manager that I had in the past, an awesome city manager, his name is Barry Johnson, and he always spoke to me about our craft as public administrators is it's like sausage making. You make sausages, right? If any of you have been to a sausage factory, it's disgusting, right? It's terrible. Nobody wants to go there. It's disgusting. But boy, how they love to consume the sausage when it's done. And that's the way to the city hall. There's a lot of sausage making, and not everybody's cut out to go into the sausage factory, our craft, right, of public administration, and see how that's done. So You got to be okay if you're going to play at that high level responsibility as a public administrator where you're actually working a craft. Working your craft actually means that you are making independent judgment decisions. You're making independent decisions. Sometimes the city manager or the council or whoever's in charge doesn't want to tell you how to do your job because they know that you're a professional. The expectation is that you understand it's your craft. Go ahead, you solve this. How are you going to deal with this with a situation of this individual that's not cleaning up their yard? They have a code violation, right? How are you going to handle it? Well, it depends. It depends. Everything depends. When you're working your craft, you have to understand that it all depends. Going back to the example of the city of Imperial Beach back in the late 1990s, all the way through when I left in 2006, we had to take it incremental change management. As your craft, you have to understand change management. You can't ram it down their throats, man. You can't ram it down their throats. It has to be progressive, incremental. And that's what we did in Imperial Beach. Just small little, think of Bob. Remember, what about Bob? Babies, public safety again. Baby steps. Remember, baby steps. Baby step up the stairs, baby step to the elevator. I'm in the elevator, right? And that's the way it was with that community. We had to take baby steps because from where the city was in the 1980s, 1990s to where it is today, it's a big difference. And that leadership of the mayor and city council at that time, city manager Barry Johnson, Matt Rodriguez, Dave Oltman, Gary Brown, Andy Hall, and now our new city manager there in Imperial Beach, his name is Tyler Foltz, working as, again, we're all standing on shoulders of giants so that we can see above. If it wasn't for that, you go back to the beginning, oh my gosh, what a mess. How am I going to clean this up? And you can't criticize the craft of a professional. You do the best you can. Sometimes somebody will say, you're unethical. You're doing something illegal. And you know what? It's neither unethical nor illegal. It's just that you have to baby step it. Change comes incrementally. And so if you are not at that level as a professional public administrator, whether you're a director of finance, director of community development, director of public works or whatever, you need to be able to see the big picture. You can't just go like this and say, oh, this is wrong, this is illegal. Well, there's that saying that I keep highlighting: lead, follow, or get out of the way. It's that easy. After 33 years, I tell you, I have a lot of confidence. It's not cockiness. It's not arrogance. Guys, I'm telling you, it's just confidence. You have 33, 34 years working in city government. You get to where you know the way things are done. Yes, we have a democracy. The city council, right? 3 out of 5, if we have 5 council members. City managers know how to count to 5, right? 3, but we work with all the council members. We treat them all with the same respect and with the same consideration, but we work our craft. So all of you, I would say, think about your job as your craft and do the best craft, the best work that you can do for your community. All for now. Thank you for listening. Give me your comments. John Herrera, President of Munitemps, Municipal Staffing Solutions, with today's City Speak podcast, coming to you from this beautiful park on this beautiful evening in this beautiful community. Bye-bye.